All right, buckle up because we are diving deep into an epic rivalry today, folks. Baal versus Yahweh. It's not just some ancient history lesson, though.
Yeah.
This gets into the core of how people have understood, well, gods, power, even what it means to be human. I'm already hooked.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating is that this conflict, it still resonates with us today, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
It shaped how we think about faith, belief, all of that.
Absolutely. So to even wrap our heads around this, we got to go way back. Ancient Levant. What was life even like back then? Paint us a picture.
Okay, so imagine a world where everything, and I mean everything, depends on the rain. Your crops, your livelihood, whether you even have food on the table, it all comes down to whether or not those storms roll in.
So naturally, you start looking to the sky for some answers. Someone or something in control.
Exactly. And for the people of the Levant, that someone was Baal, the mighty storm god.
Okay, so Baal. He's not just chilling on a cloud somewhere, right? This guy's a big deal.
Oh, huge. Temples, rituals, offerings, the whole 9 yards. He was the ultimate power broker. Rain, thunder, lightning, you name it, Baal controlled it.
It sounds like a pretty direct relationship there. Like, hey, Baal, I need rain. Here's a goat. We good?
Pretty much. A very give-and-take approach to the divine. You can see why that would appeal, right?
Right.
Especially when life felt so uncertain.
Totally. But then you've got this group showing up with a radically different idea, the Israelites and their god, Yahweh. So what made Yahweh so different from Baal?
Well, for starters, Yahweh wasn't tied to any one thing like storms or harvests. He was presented as the one true God, the creator of everything, the power behind the entire universe.
Whoa, talk about a paradigm shift. Like, yeah, your storm god is cool and all, but our God, he made the storms.
Exactly, and that was a radical concept at the time. The idea of one God, all-powerful, beyond the natural order, it was unheard of. And it wasn't just about acknowledging Yahweh's power either. This God, he demanded something far more, more profound, exclusive loyalty, faith.
Hold on, so not goats. What did this faith thing even mean in this context? What did it look like to worship Yahweh?
Now that's where things get really interesting. You see, with Baal, it was all about appeasement. Do your rituals, make your offerings, and hope you stay on his good side. But Yahweh, he demanded something more internal, more spiritual, belief, trust, even when things were tough.
So less about controlling the divine and more about, I don't know, surrendering to it.
Exactly, and that shift from appeasement to surrender, from transactions to trust, that's what set the stage for this epic clash of beliefs.
Okay, so we've got this clash of civilizations brewing. Two completely different ways of understanding, like the divine, right? Baal, the god you bargain with, and Yahweh, this god who demands faith. But this wasn't just some abstract theology seminar. This was real life, with real people having to navigate it all.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what makes this story so fascinating, you know, so relatable, even after thousands of years, because it wasn't just about which god was stronger. It was about what people were willing to put their faith in, who they'd trust, especially when things got tough.
And things were about to get real tough for the Israelites.
Yes.
We can't talk about this clash of faiths without mentioning King Ahab and his queen Jezebel. Talk about all in on Baal.
Yeah, Ahab and Jezebel, they weren't messing around. They didn't just allow Baal worship. They went all in, building temples, appointing priests, basically making it like the official religion. And this wasn't just some power move either. It was a direct challenge to Yahweh and his followers.
It's like they were saying, we're sticking with the old ways, the gods of success and wealth, even if it meant going directly against the Israelites and their God.
Exactly. And this clash, this head-to-head between Baal and Yahweh, it all comes to a head with the story of Elijah and those priests of Baal on Mount Carmel.
Oh, this story. Talk about an epic showdown. Set the scene for us.
All right, so picture this. You've got Mount Carmel, this dramatic, windswept mountain. You can practically feel the tension. On one side, you've got the prophets of Baal, all 450 of them, decked out, ready to call on their God. And on the other side, there's Elijah, this lone prophet of Yahweh, just, well, standing there. The atmosphere must have been electric.
It's giving, like, David and Goliath vibes. But instead of slingshots, it's a battle of, well, faith and divine power. So how did this showdown actually go down?
So the challenge is laid down. Each side builds an altar, prepares a sacrifice, then calls on their God to light it up, to send fire from heaven. The God who answers, well, that's the true God, right?
Sounds simple enough. But you have to imagine what's at stake here. This wasn't just about winning an argument. It was about the fate of nations, a belief itself.
You got it. And so the prophets of Baal, they go first. They're dancing, they're chanting, crying out to Baal for hours. And Nothing. No fire, no lightning, not even a little smoke.
I bet some people are starting to sweat a little, like, oh, did we back the wrong horse here?
It's human nature, right? To question, to doubt, especially when you're faced with the unknown. But then Elijah, he steps up, he rebuilds Yahweh's altar, prepares the sacrifice, and then, well, he does something unexpected. He asks for water, he's soaking the altar, the sacrifice, everything is drenched.
Talk about dramatic. Like, all right, Yahweh, if you're up there, now is the time to shine.
Total power move, right? Total faith in Yahweh. And then boom, fire falls from the sky, consumes the sacrifice, the altar, even the water.
I'm getting chills just imagining it. That's a moment that changes everything. What happens next? Everyone's got to be freaking out.
People were astonished, terrified even. They fall to their knees crying out, Yahweh, he is God. It was a win for Elijah, a win for Yahweh, and, well, for the future of monotheism.
You think that'd be the end of Baal, right? But as we know, belief's a messy thing. What happens next?
So that scene on Mount Carmel, I mean, talk about convincing, right? But you said yourself, this whole Baal versus Yahweh thing, it didn't just end overnight.
Yeah, belief, it doesn't exactly have an on-off switch, you know? Even after seeing something like that fire from the sky, a lot of Israelites, they held onto those old ways, those rituals with Baal. Comforting, maybe?
I can see that, but still, I mean, they saw a miracle, right? Why
Yeah.
the hesitation? Well, think about it. For generations, Baal had represented security, like tangible solutions to their everyday problems. Yahweh asked for something much, much bigger. Faith, trust, letting go of control.
So less about the proof, more about what believing actually meant for them.
Exactly. Choosing Yahweh, it meant signing up for a whole new way of life, new values, a relationship with the divine that wasn't about, well, a bigger harvest or anything that straightforward.
That's a tough sell, I'd imagine.
And
Especially when just surviving felt like a day-to-day struggle.
for sure. And you see this tension all through the Old Testament, right? The Israelites back and forth between Yahweh and these more immediate comforts, these little securities.
But you mentioned the Babylonian exile earlier. Didn't that, well, horrible as it was, didn't it actually strengthen their faith in Yahweh?
Funny how that works sometimes, isn't it? But yeah, it's often when we lose everything, when we're forced to start over, that faith is really tested, refined. And so there they were, ripped from their homeland, no temple, no rituals. What did they have left? Yahweh. Not just their God anymore, but the one God.
So losing everything, it actually made them hold on even tighter to what they believed.
Exactly. And it was during that exile, that's where monotheism as we know it really took root. The Israelites came out of that with this incredibly strong sense of Yahweh, of their covenant with him. Powerful.
And that faith, it became the foundation for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, religions that, well, billions of people follow today.
It really is incredible when you think about it. That ancient rivalry, Baal and Yahweh, it echoes through, thousands of years, shaping not just religion, but how we understand right and wrong, our purpose, even how we relate to nature itself.
So what can we take away from all this? What does this ancient battle of the gods tell us about, about us? About how we search for meaning in this crazy world?
Maybe it's a reminder that real faith, it often asks us to be okay with not knowing.
Why?
To trust in something bigger than ourselves, something we can't always see or touch. To confront those little Baals we all have.
The temptations, right? The quick fixes, the easy answers.
Right. It's that age-old struggle. Instant gratification versus something deeper, something that lasts.
And as different as those ancient gods might seem, this whole thing, wrestling with belief, it's got to be as relevant today as it was way back then.
Totally. And maybe, just like the Israelites discovered, it's in that struggle, in asking the tough questions, that we get closer to figuring out what belief really is.
That's what I call a deep dive. What a journey. History, faith, the power of belief. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring.